Today, I'll go through the top 10 comps that I've had the most success with on PB, and so hopefully you have success with these on live as well. First comp is Arcanist Ahri. This is the one I've been playing the most and honestly have been having the most fun with. It uses Ahri as the main carry. It feels a little bit similar to Lux, but Ahri's positioning is very different. She works exactly like she did back in set 3 if anybody played that. The strategy here is to go level 8 to be able to 2-star Ahri and hit 2-star Braum, and also to be able to hit Victor so you have a powerful secondary carry as well. The way this comp works is that Blitzcrank pulls in a target, and then that allows Ahri to do even more AoE damage with her spell, and then you just want to make sure that she stays alive, because the longer Ahri stays alive, the more orbs she will cast and also deal way more damage. The hardest part about this comp is probably the positioning, but if you position like this, you should be fine, because here she will always cast on the Blitzcrank target. Here you can replace Renata with another unit, depending on which augments you get. If you get +1 Syndicate, you can take out Renata to play Morgana for 5 Syndicate. If you get Arcanist Heart, you take her out to put in Swain or Vex for 6 Arcanist. And if you get +1 Bodyguard, you take her out to play Leona. In terms of items, you really want blue buff, because Ahri only has 50 mana, so now then she will instantly cast, allowing her to stack up her orbs right off the bat. And it also makes her only need 3 autos for her second and third cast. The other 2 items want to be damage items. I really like IE Jewel Gauntlet just to be able to burst through the unit that Blitzcrank is pulling. But other items such as Deathcap, Hodge, Archangels, and Giant Slayer also work great as second and third items. You can also itemize Victor with like Sojin and AP items. If you are able to 2-star him, then that's definitely going to be powerful. And also stuff like Chalice and Banshee's Claw is great to put on like Zyra or Victor and have them next to Ahri. As for augments, +1 Arcanist, Syndicate, or Bodyguard are going to be the best ones. Blue Battery is also great to make sure that Ahri gets to 30 mana after every cast, making her stack up her orbs even faster. Another augment I also really like is Luden's Echo, just to deal even more damage while she casts. And as for tank items, you just toss those on Braum and Blitzcrank, and I really like ZZ just to stall for even longer. Next one up is going to be 6 challengers with Tryndamere and Warwick 3-star carry. You will either pick Warwick or Tryndamere carry, depending on which you find first and what you have items for, because they have pretty different items. With Tryndamere, you kind of want the same items as you wanted back in set 4.5 when he was a carry. You want IE Last Whisper to make sure that he always doesn't get stuck on tanks and that he's able to one-shot carries in the backline. And then the third item can either be Edge of Night, this is showing GA, but it's Edge of Night in the new set, or BT or Hodge to give him some healing. As for Warwick, you really need Titans and QSS, those are your main 2 core items, and then the third item is Shiv or Rageblade. You will slow roll at level 6, so you'll remove Draven and Kai'Sa, and you allow 4 challengers, and then you go for a 3-star Warwick and Tryndamere. And then you can also hit 3-star Quinn and Zac as well. We don't care about Zillion because he gets replaced by Orianna once you are able to hit her. As for augments, On Guard is great in any challenger comp. Instant Injection is also really nice, just to make sure they get that attack speed right off the bat and also that tankiness and healing. And Challenger Heart is also great because you can take out Camille to play another unit. If you get tank items, you toss those on Zac, and you can also itemize Quinn with Sojin and stuff to make sure that she casts more often and applies a bunch of CC to the enemy teams. Now next one up is 6 Scrap Irelia. This works kinda similarly to 6 Scrap Trundle Reroll or Jinx carry, but instead now we're playing Irelia as our main carry. With 6 Scrap we get a giant shield on all our Scrap units, so therefore Irelia becomes incredibly tanky, and when she's a melee carry, that's her biggest or main issue. Make sure to always have her close to Blitzcrank so that she kills the target that he pulls in, because that's usually going to be a weak target, and with Irelia you really want to make sure that she gets resets off, because when she kills, she'll dash to the next target and also apply her spell to that target. As for items, you want IE Last Whisper to make sure that she never gets stuck on tanks, because she's a melee carry, she might start attacking a bodyguard right away, and if she doesn't get resets, you just lose and take a ton of damage. The third item can either be QSS or healing items, or just Deathblade to get even more damage in, because with a 6 Scrap, you're going to get a giant shield, so a healing item is not that necessary in my experience, but it doesn't hurt. You can also just have a component as her third item. You want to throw your extra AD items on Jinx once you hit her, so like having a random Hurricane or IE, Deathblade, BT, GA on Jinx, just like you would in the previous 6 Scrap comp from set 6.0. And then you throw your utility items on Seraphine or Echo to boost up your entire other team. Gnar can be replaced by another unit, depending on your augments, but I generally like playing Gnar because you get 2 Socialite in, and you also get that 2 Striker, which is really nice for Irelia to get a bit more AD in. Also, one thing to note is that with Scrap, you get a bigger shield based on each component, so you want to make sure that you have components on all your other Scrap units, so that you get a giant shield on Irelia. So next one up is Hextech Sivir. Here we have Sivir as our main carry with the IA Last Whisper, and then the third item is going to be Deathblade, or another AD item like Hodge or Giant Slayer can also work. Really neat part about this comp is running Silco to make sure that Sivir casts almost right away, but more importantly to make Draven cast right away, because he gives attack speed to nearby allies, and so with plus 40 mana he's going to start with full mana, so he'll cast right away, buffing up Sivir's attack speed, and getting that chain to go off as fast as possible, so you'll just melt teams with this combination. But Silco and Renata can be taken out for other units, so you can go for example, 6 Hextech or 4 Strikers, 4 Enforcers if you'd like, because Scholar isn't that great on its own in this comp. It's just that Silco's ability, the Mastermind, is just so incredibly powerful. Renata can also be taken out, so if you hit Silco, but you, for example, are at 5 out of 4 Hextech, you can take her out for another Hextech unit to hit that in. And then you will itemize either Alistar or Vi with your tank items, depending on which you 2-star and find first. So the next one up is our old favorite, 6 Yordles. We got some new carries now, and we're going to run Corki as our main carry. With him we want blue buff because he gets 50 mana, and he goes down to 37 with 6 Yordles. And so with blue buff he's going to only need 2 autos to cast, and then we run IE Jewel Gauntlet to scale off the AD we get from Twin Shot, and also just to make his spell always crit. We can also run stuff like Death Cap and Gunblade, Giant Slayer. Pretty much any item that is AP or mixed damage is what we want on him. We don't actually want AD items on Corki. I made that mistake when I first tried to test this out. He's actually an AP carry. And then, as always, you throw your tank items on Vex, and then you can also throw some additional tank items on Poppy. Gnar carry has not been great for me, so I typically just don't itemize Gnar at all. Although some people have claimed that he's a good AD carry, I have not had success with him at all, at least in the 6 Yordle comp. You play this just like you would play 6 Yordles on the last patch. You slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Poppy Ziggs, and then you push to level 7 to 3-star all your other units, and then your 7th unit is going to be GP to make sure we activate that to Twin Shot. You can roll at level 6 if you get that Twin Shot heart, because having 2 Twin Shot for Corki is incredibly important to make sure that he can cast the spell twice, which is going to put out a ton of damage. And then obviously once you 3-star all your Yordles, then you level up to 8 to put in Vhagar as well. As for augments, we also want a Metabolic Accelerator, because we take a lot of damage with Yordles just to heal back up from that. The augment also gives you plus 35 HP. The Tiny Tacticians is also great, especially if you get it later. Metabolic Accelerator is a lot better at the early parts of the game, because then you get more healing throughout the entire game. And Sharpshooter is also incredible, because then Corki can deal damage to multiple enemies, and the AoE also spreads out so they can double AoE some targets and just shred people with this. Next up is Draven carry. To play this, you just absolutely need VIP Draven. Without VIP Draven, this kind of sucks, to be completely honest. This comp is not great without VIP Draven, because the infinite range he gets is incredibly powerful, because then he always catches his axes and deals additional damage. And he also shreds 50% of the armor, or ignores it with this. So you can also go Last Whisper on Draven, because then it's going to first shred the armor and then ignore the rest of it. That's going to be really powerful if there's a lot of like 4 or 6 bodyguards in the lobbies, but typically there's only 2. Therefore, we don't need Last Whisper, typically, in my experience. And then you want either IA or Deathblade as your core item, and then you have Hurricane to make sure that you're always getting Challenger resets off, because then you double his attack speed every time they get a kill. And the third item, I like having QSS, but you can also go for healing items or just another raw damage items like Last Whisper or Deathblade or Giant Slayer. But then you gotta make sure you just don't have him in the corner so he doesn't get pulled or CC'd. You can replace Kaisa and Camille with 2 other units, so you can go for like 4 bodyguards, or you can play Sejuani and Vi to get more utility into your team, but I typically like 4 challengers, as long as you 2-star your Irelia and your Braum. As for augments, there aren't that many great, because if you get +1, it's really hard to fit in anything and to still end up with a clean team. So I like just going for other augments that just straight up buff your team, like Backfit. I really like to buff up the attack speed of your entire backline, and Challenger Unity is also really nice to give Silco, Braum, Leona, and Syndra more attack speed as well. Really nice. And then Celestial Blessing, because is really nice when you don't have a healing item on Draven. Next one up is going to be Brand Reroll. You want to slow roll for Brand 3-star, Ziggs 3-star, Poppy 3-star, and then you will play either Syndra or Leona as your level 5 to go 3 Debonair, or if you have more HP, then you can play Vex or another Yordle to make sure you're getting 3-star Ziggs and Poppy real fast. And then once you hit Brand 3-star, you go level 8, end up with this board, and then also try to hit Vex 3-star if possible, although that will be hard when you have slow rolled a lot at level 5. Just as in the Ahri comp, Renata can be taken out for any other unit. So for example, if you get +1 bodyguard, you can go for 4 bodyguard by taking out her. Same thing with Debonair and Arcanist as well. As for items on Brand, he works exactly like in set 5, so you want to have blue buff on him. Also, just quick note, if you have blue battery, then you don't need blue buff because he's always going to auto ones, regardless if he has blue buff or not. And with blue battery, he's going to get 10 mana and then get 10 mana off the auto, and then he's going to be able to cast. The two other items want to be damage items, so IE Jewel Gauntlet is my personal favorite. But you can also go for stuff like Deathcap, Archangels, Giant Slayer, and all that. Gunblade is also really nice to heal up your frontline if that is also needed. And then you can throw your itemized Sigs or Ahri as your secondary carry as well. But typically I like just having, making sure we're itemized Vex or Poppy. Next one up is Innovators. It's pretty much played almost the exact same way. Senna is basically Taric and Echo is Heimer. The only difference is that we never go for Scholars anymore with this comp. As most of you probably already know, this comp is incredibly powerful if you are able to hit 7 Innovators. So Innovator Heart is incredibly OP, and so therefore taking Ancient Archives to be able to high roll an Innovator Heart out of that is just stupid OP, and so you should always grab this if possible. And then if you are able to hit that 7 Innovator, then you'll just play this over the Senna, and then you'll hit the Dragon. As for items, Sojin Morello is core on Seraphine, and then you just want aura items on Orianna to buff up your Jace and Seraphine. And then third item for Seraphine is just an AP item. Generally, you tend to backline Jace once he's 1-starred, and once he's 2-starred, you move him up to the front line, unless you've itemized Jace with stuff like Deathblade, i.e. Carry items in general. You can also throw utility items on Echo, with such as Frozen Heart or Sojin, and then you can backline your entire team as well to buff up everybody with his spell, because then the enemy team is going to come into this area, and then they'll cast around here. I really like stuff that buffs the back rows. Stuff like Phalox and the back foot is incredibly powerful in this comp, because you play every single unit in the back rows except for Singed and the Mechanical Bear, but you can also put these down really easily if you want to as well. So next one up is Jhin. With this one we have a lot of different options based on our augments. If we get +1 bodyguard, then we can cut Vi Sejuani to play 4 bodyguards, and then we can, instead of playing a Vi, we can play, for example, another enchanter. On the opposite side is also true. If we get +1 Bruiser, then we can take out Leona Braum to play Zac or TK, and then get another enchanter. We can also just cut Jace Caitlyn to play MF plus another unit. It's probably the most flexible comp and is probably the hardest to explain when I'm just doing a quick rundown like this. I'll probably make another more in-depth guide on Jhin, because the way you play this comp is pretty different when you don't have Yuumi or Janna, and Janna was a big part of Jhin by being able to push away the units. But the items are pretty much the same, but since Jace is at 5 cost, you won't always be able to hit him, so then I like having Last Whisper a lot more often now. Although if you are able to hit Jace, you can put him in the front line to shred armor. But I also really like having Jace in the back line to buff up Jin's attack speed. It really makes him deal a lot more damage when he casts the spell. And then Trapclaw on Orianna is amazing, so you can always corner the Jhin. And instead of Deathblade, you can have a healing item as well, like Hodge or PT or QSS. Or Hurricane as well if you need more damage. And then you throw your tank items on Vi or Braum, depending on who you are starting first. As for augments, Sniper's Nest is amazing. I already talked about the +1 bodyguard, Sniper, Bruiser. And then Swift Justice is one I really like too, because then you're dealing your true damage to anybody below 50%, and that's going to allow Jhin to just shred through people. So the last one is 5 Mutants. You play this the exact same way as in set 6.0. You get to level 8, you hit this board, play Kassadin over Kai'Sa until you hit her. And then you go for a 3-star Cho'Gath and 3-star Malzahar. If you are able to 3-star Cho'Gath or Malzahar, you will usually be able to top 2 or go first. But if you can only 2-star them, then you are going to be in a struggle for top 4. So it's kind of a 1st or 8th comp, but you're still able to squeeze out a lot of top 4s even if you don't hit the 3 stars. And then as for items, you always want Redemption on Cho'Gath, because he's going to have an insane amount of HP, and this heals a percentage of his HP. And then I like having Stoneplate because he has a lot of HP, and so you get a lot of effective health with this. Also, since you have few frontliners, then more people are going to be targeting Cho'Gath. And then Bramble to make sure he doesn't get bursted down super fast. On Malzahar, his items will change a little bit based on what the mutant trait is, because there are, as you can see here, there are a lot of different ones. So as long as you don't have the Sedaptic Web where you're getting -40 mana on every unit, then you always want blue buff, and then you either can go for IE Jewel Gauntlet, or you can go for Morello Gunblade. You can go for Deathcap Morello or Deathcap Gunblade. It just depends a lot on what you need and Especially like if you don't have Redemption, then Gunblade Malzahar is more important. But also if your two items are bad and you're more all in on Malzahar, then you gotta focus more on that. If you are able to hit Kaiseth, her best items are Rageblade, Shiv, and Morello. Since her attack speed is really high, then Rageblade is insane because it gives her so much extra attack speed every auto. And Shiv is also great because she's going to shred MR and then cast her spell, dealing a ton of damage. You can also itemize Kha'Zix with AD items, but I haven't had too much success with this. Also, since it's very hard to fit in assassins with this comp. As for augments, Mutant Heart is great because then you can hit this board basically at level 7 by cutting out Kha'Zix or Rek'Sai. Unstable Evolution is just great to give your mutants even more stats, and Armor Plating is insane on Cho'Gath 3-star. Other augments like Healing Augments is also great, as long as it's not the healing mutant trait. But the most important thing with this comp is just to keep in mind, pay attention to what the mutant trait is, because it changes a little bit based on what the trait is, although the overall game plan is almost always the same. You will almost always go level 8 and end up with this board. Like I said, all these comps will be linked down in an Imgur album down in the description, and if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and comment and let me know which comp you enjoyed the most, and also which comp you want me to make an in-depth guide on first, because I'm going to be dropping those next week once I've had a little bit more time to just get really deep into some comps. And also, if you want to know what the best comps are and what the meta is going to be, then join the Discord, and then we're always discussing all the new stuff over here. I'll leave this link down in the description as well. And so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.